Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Carnivorous Grandma Speaks. This is Robyn Herron, your Carnivorous Grandma here, and I'm super excited tonight to have with me Mitch from Old Guy Carnivore. Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Robyn, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm
Good to
good.
see
Good to see
you.
you. Welcome to the channel. So glad to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Good to.
Let's just go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Mitch, do you
Okay.
want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Sure. I'm hoping. She's in here. I thought everybody would already know me. Big star that I have become.
They
Well,
probably already do, Mitch, but sometimes
that's
you got to
fine.
let
That's
them know
fine.
again.
No, I'm sure there's plenty of people that don't know me yet, or maybe don't want to know me. Anyway, my name is Mitch, and my channel is Old Guy Carnivore. It was a drone channel that I started in 2018, but I kind of got out of that and always been on a health kick of sorts. So I decided that I had been carnivore for a year, and I decided to take my drone channel and turn it into Old Guy Carnivore. But the old guy part has been there for quite a while, and it's because I'm old. I will be 77 years old in 7 weeks. And I wear that like a badge of honor, because at my age now I'm in the best health that I have ever been. And I've
Mm.
tried to lead a very healthy life. Unfortunately, like most of us, trying to do that meant believing and listening to all the wrong advice, and making all those mistakes. And on top of that, if you could rate carb addicts on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd be at 12.
Mhm.
I mean, seriously. And the it's a carb addiction. I've recognized it a long time ago, and it's been something I've been trying to figure out for years and years. Why is it that I always fail after I've succeeded? I would be 200 pounds. I'd go on a low carb, and I've been low carb since Atkins back in the early 1970s. I tried to be low carb. I would lose the weight, and then I would reward myself when I got to where I thought I was done and I was thin, and the addiction kicked in about a hot New York second, and 3 months later I'm 200 pounds again. And I yo-yoed between 150 and 200 pounds at least 10 and more likely 15 times over a period of 50 years, never really getting to the root cause of why I could lose the weight, but why I couldn't maintain what I had lost for the rest of my life. And then I was keto for a few years, and being keto was pretty close, but it did not do anything about my carb addictions. The keto allowed me to still eat carbs, and you know how when you're keto, you look at those carbs, you say, "Ooh, I'm allowed. I can have 20 carbs." You don't think I'm going to waste my 20 carbs on broccoli, do you? Oh, hell no. I'm going to figure
Right.
out some way to make a imitation chocolate ice cream sundae and put it on top of an imitation pizza. As long as it's only 20 carbs, I'm okay. And that just kept, those kind of things just keeps the addictions alive. And finally, carnivore
Mhm.
became popular, and I had a head injury. I had brain surgery about 2.5 years ago. During the recovery from that, I gained about 30 pounds again. So a little over a year and a half ago, when I said, okay, I need to get serious now, I got serious with carnivore, and the rest is history. So that's the story that I have my channel to try to tell people how I did it, because it worked for the first time in my life.
A couple, you have a little bit to, I have a little bit to unpack there that I
Sure.
want to just ask a couple of questions about.
And I'm going to drink
So
my
you
coffee
said,
while you're unpacking.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. You said that you did Atkins in the 1970s.
Yes.
So, was that the Dr. Atkins diet revolution?
Absolutely. I bought his, he released his book in 1972.
Oh
In
my.
1973, I went on the diet. And you think that, do you think that the people think that we're crazy now? Do you think that, do you
Oh
think
my
that
gosh.
they think carnivore is not good for you? You should have heard them back in the 70s. The revolution against Atkins and
Mhm.
his lunatic way of eating meat and fat, because it was a meat and fat heavy diet. And all the diets followed that, all the low carb, the different ones. After him came Barry Sears, with the zone diet, and then Lawrence Cordain with the paleo diet, and all of these Scarsdale diets and
Yep.
potato diets and banana diets and every other kind of diet along the way to lead to where we are today. It's crazy.
So the funniest thing is my mom had that book in the 70s when I was a kid.
Cool.
And I remember seeing that book and thinking, I don't know how long she had it or what year it was she had it, but I remember thinking that I need to go on this diet. And I was a little kid. I started dieting when I was like 11.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and so I actually found the Atkins diet in the 2000s. The early 2000s, he came out with a new book called The Atkins New Diet Revolution.
I think Eric Westman was involved in that.
Yes, he
Yeah,
was.
Eric Westman
He was.
hooked up with Atkins before he died,
Mhm.
and kind of took over the work from him. And now, of course,
Yeah.
he's been doing this keto thing at
Yes.
what school was he at? He's at
Duke.
Duke University.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and he still talks about Robert Atkins to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Atkins, I definitely understood that Atkins' induction phase was the way to go. I felt like, oh my gosh, this is like a gift from God. The
Yeah.
Atkins induction phase. But like you said, climbing up the carb addiction was the problem. And so I was never all the way successful because of trying to climb the carb ladder. And I have that, like you, I have a carb addiction. And so I always say I would turn around, I spin around, and I've gained all my weight back. Try another diet, spin
Yeah, it
around,
happens. The,
gained all
the,
my weight back over
the,
and over and over again.
and the
Yeah.
only good thing about people like you and me is that we pretty much have a hard limit to how fat we'll let ourselves get before we just get so thoroughly disgusted by looking in the mirror that we say, that's it. And you have that much fortitude to at least say, that's it. I'm done. I will not gain another ounce. And mine was
Mhm.
200 pounds. Mine was 42-inch waist.
Mine was 200 pounds too.
Yeah, and there's something magical. There's something magical. I mean, there's so many people out there that let themselves
But
get to 4 or 5, 6, 700 pounds. I
yeah,
think you reach a point where you've just mentally given up and said, "This is I know it's not going to be a long life, but this is going to be my best life, just deriving
mhm.
joy from the food I eat." And
Yes, right.
because you can't stop. But this thing about addiction, Robin, this thing
Mhm.
about addiction, it took me a lot of years to actually realize that that's not just a problem. It's the problem. It is
Mhm.
the problem. It is the problem times 10 to the next serious problem. It is what I would, if they say that 88% of people in this country are metabolically ill, that means that they are carbohydrate addicts. The
And that's
fortunate,
that's a crazy number.
it is, but it's true. And how about diabetics?
Wow.
Every
Mhm.
diabetic has to be a carbohydrate. Why would people eat that much sugar if they weren't an addict?
Right.
So we have to actually start recognizing addiction as a real thing, but they won't let us do that. They have all of these lame excuses. Well, how can you say that it's an addiction?
Hmm.
Food, you have to eat. You don't have to take cocaine. You don't have to smoke cigarettes, but you have to eat. Well,
Right.
we're not saying, I'm not saying food addiction. See, that's a term I hate to use. There's no such thing as food addiction
Food addiction. Right.
because people aren't addicted to ribeyes. They may like the way they taste, but they don't Jones for a ribeye. You don't find them robbing their mother's jewelry to go out and buy a ribeye. But we are addicted to carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are a drug. And I go into it so many times in so many of my videos trying to explain the physiological and the evolutionary reasons why this actually happens. But people don't want to hear that, most of them. Some of them are very interested, but the view count on those videos is usually low. And the view count on the videos where I teach them how to cook something in my kitchen is usually high. So the average person doesn't want to
Hmm.
have to think about it.
Right.
But it is an addiction. It's an addiction that has to be recognized as serious as alcohol. We need an organization as big as Alcoholics Anonymous, if not bigger, with national organization.
Right.
And it doesn't exist because our economy is based on all that food and drug money, and our lifestyles are based on the parties and the eating here and the eating there, and it's a cruise ship going 30 knots in this direction, and we want to turn it around. And it's a lot of momentum, a lot of momentum. But we're chipping
Yes.
away at it, a little bit at a time.
Yeah. So, you said that you were a carb addict,
Oh,
as am I, 100%. And, but you said that you also, after a year on carnivore, you decided to start your channel. Can you talk a little bit about what happened there? How did you decide to start? And what was the impetus for that?
oh, okay. Well, I wanted to get rich, and I want and have a Lamborghini like Mr. Beast has,
Okay, you're gonna have to do
and
some
and
more
and
dangerous stuff
and
on your
and
channel.
Casey Neistat. I want to. No. Oh,
You got a
look,
$5 super
I see
sticker.
that.
Thank you,
Thank you, Andrew
Andrew.
H. Thank you. And I have
Appreciate
we have
that.
76 people watching
Oh
here.
my gosh,
Yeah,
amazing.
that's great. Thank you guys on a Saturday afternoon. I'm so happy that you came
Appreciate
to
it.
see me. Yeah, and Andrew's in my private community. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. But we and all of you that are watching from my channel, I'm going to come and make sure you subscribed to Robyn. And if you haven't, you're gonna hear from me. So
Oh,
let's do it.
thank
Okay.
you.
I had a ball. I had an absolute ball doing my drone channel. And
Hmm.
I got up to 1,300 subscribers on my drone channel. It's such a small niche compared to some of these other things. I mean, if I wanted to have a big YouTube channel where I could make a lot of money, I would have to be in a different genre than carnivore. I would have to be in tech, photography, just
Hmm.
stupid things, just things that embarrassingly stupid things, dangerous things. And I limited myself by going carnivore and not keto and carnivore because the audience for keto is 10 times what the audience is pure for pure carnivore. And that's kind of why Ken Berry has such a huge audience over,
Hmm.
say, somebody like Anthony Chafee or Sean Baker, who have less than a tenth of the subscribers that Ken has. But Ken has Nisha, and they're a great couple, and he's a very entertaining down-home guy. And I've met him
Yes.
once, and you've met him on your interview. He is
Yes.
the real thing that you see. He's
Hmm.
What you see with Ken is what you get. And I missed it. I had this. I showed you this earlier, and everybody's seen it. But I have this little setup here that
Amazing.
is my YouTube is my office, but it converts to a YouTube studio, and I have all the push buttons that I can push, and play producer director at the same time, and I missed doing it. I love photography. I love filmmaking. I love
Mhm.
the technical and photographic side of YouTube, and I've studied all my life. And the people that have followed me for the past, it's been 7 months now since I started talking about carnivore on this channel. And in that 7 months, I went from 1,300 subscribers to 25,000,
Amazing.
600 subscribers. Yeah, so that validated it for me. I loved doing it. I have a
Yeah.
very dark, black, and wicked sense of humor, and people people
We
pick.
love it, Mitch.
I do. People people pick that up. I can be as irreverent as hell when I want to be, and yet I know the science. I'm right there. Not quite Bart K, but I understand every word that comes out of his mouth. I met with Dave Feldman in Orlando, and we talked for 2 hours, and I understood virtually everything he was talking. He could not get deep in the weeds when it came to biochemistry. So I understand all the stuff. I wrote a book about this 20 something years ago
Oh my gosh.
called Taming the Beast Within, and it's a book about the relationship between our conscious and our subconscious minds and why we do the things that we do and what are the evolutionary reasons why our behaviors are a certain way. And of course that gets me in trouble with all the religious people because every time I say the word evolution I get a few harsh comments.
So
But
I'm what I get. You probably would call me a religious person, but I'm not offended.
well,
Okay.
Ken Berry is as religious as they get, and
Hmm.
yet he knows evolution is a science. So
Yeah.
while he's religious and believes in God and believes in all that stuff, the one thing he doesn't believe is that the earth is only like 6,000 years old. He believes the evidence. And I believe that evidence. I've studied it all my life. And then the people
Hmm.
come on and say to me, there's no evidence of it. And I say, just because you may think there's no evidence, but the reality is you've never looked because it's there. There are tens of thousands of videos on YouTube alone talking about nothing else but the archaeology, the anthropology, the laboratory work, the discoveries, all the things. So the Pope in 1975 decreed that there is no conflict between religion and evolution. And I thought maybe that would have put it to bed, but it didn't. My thoughts on the matter, and I don't like to offend people, and I used to be afraid to say the word, but I finally gotten over that.
I'm gonna just pause you there because I heard your video where you was chewing us out about that. Said, all right, Mitch, tell us about it.
Yeah. But see
If you want to leave, you can go. There's the door.
yeah, the and I knew I was going to get a lot of heat on that, but I didn't. But what I got more than heat was I got 98% of people telling me that I'm glad that somebody finally said what you just said. So I've adopted the idea that it's a free world. You don't find me watching vegan channels.
Right.
I don't watch them. They have nothing to tell me. I know that I don't agree with them. But on the other hand, it's not my job to go on there and tell them they're wrong or try to change their minds. And I'm too old. I'm too old to fight those battles. And it's a mistake, I think, to constantly pick on vegans. Most of us know that they're just activists, most of them, running around, holding up traffic, throwing white paint on things and spilling milk in stores and stuff. And you don't see carnivores doing that. We don't,
No.
we don't do that kind of stuff. But at any rate, my whole understanding of what it took for me to actually formulate a plan where I could overcome this carb addiction once and finally in my life for the last time, the answers are in our evolutionary and development past. If,
Hmm.
if if I'm not allowed to believe that that tree of life that goes back 3.5 billion years to the first living soul, if I'm supposed to believe that that isn't real, then none of the things that I figured out can possibly work. So I guess I need to leave this interview now and go out and get a pizza and some ice cream
Right. Right.
because I'm still a
Right.
carb addict, although I don't have any desire for carbs. Obviously, if
Right.
I'm
But if you
wrong,
eat some,
then
you will.
yeah, if
Right.
I'm wrong, I haven't cured myself. So, but I have
Right.
cured myself. And
Hmm.
we prove this. I made that point to be facetious. We prove this to ourselves in an N of one anecdote every time we eat the way we eat and we don't get hungry and we're able to stay away from that crap that we don't want to eat and we're not tortured and we're not feeling sorry for ourselves and feeling deprived of all of the good things in life. I've never had such freedom in my life. So this works. I know it works for me. You know what I mean? Can you hear me? You're playing with your earbuds there.
Sorry, I'm losing my audio.
Oh, don't do that. Can you hear
One
me?
second.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
My
I
audio is
can
acting crazy. Sorry about that.
I can sing and dance for a little bit if you
Yes,
like.
yes. Well, while we're doing that, let's put this up.
Yeah, well, let me thank you,
Tammy,
Tammy.
thank
Tammy, thank you so
you.
much, my friend. Thank you. Happy St. Patrick's Day happens
Happy
to be
St.
my
Patrick's
my
Day.
mother and father's anniversary too.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Well, they've been gone for quite a while, but
Yeah.
I
Still, it's
hope
still their anniversary.
it is. It is. It would have been their 79th
Oh,
because
wow.
my 77th birthday is coming up here shortly. So I can't believe that number.
Wow.
I
That's
feel.
something.
I mean, people say, "How do you feel?" I feel in my early 30s, maybe
Mm-hmm.
inside. I mean, in my mind and even in my energy and my body now, which was having problems. I went from rheumatoid arthritis, kidney
Mm.
stones, gout, eczema, high blood pressure. Never had sugar problems because I always was on some kind of a low carb diet, except for the in between binges where I. Problem was, it took me a year and a half to lose it and 3 months to gain it all back. Always.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Yep.
are your ears working?
Yes, they're working.
Okay.
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah. Oh, I
Okay.
never stopped hearing you.
Okay. So I was looking crazy over here trying to figure out what's going
I was
on.
yeah, I was watching. I figured well, you had mentioned before the show that your earbuds sometimes did strange things.
They do. They
So
definitely do.
how long have you been on carnivore?
So I've been on carnivore for a little over a year, almost a year and a month. So I started on February 22nd, 2023.
Okay, good for you.
And since then, so I have tried a few vegetables during that time. So, I tried some broccoli, I tried some cauliflower, I had some cabbage, and just about maybe 3 or 4 times I've tried a few vegetables, but for the most part, I've been meat based or meat only for that year. So I've tried a couple of different challenges. I did like the sea lion, where you do the lion diet plus seafood. I found that to be quite difficult.
Really?
Yeah, that was hard. But what was really hard was I did the lion diet in February this year. I was going to do 29 days of lion diet, and I really didn't feel good just eating only beef. So I ended up stopping that a couple days early.
I think that's extreme. I think if you don't need to be extreme,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that whatever you do, you have to do what it takes to overcome the addictions. And and I've got all kinds of videos and how to start, what to do in the first 30
Yeah,
days. And most of it is
right.
is really I tell people throw away the scale. I say get rid of the scale for 30 days. It doesn't matter. You've probably seen, or if you haven't,
Mm-hmm.
I have I have two rules that you have to follow, and that's it. Other than
Okay.
knowing the appropriate foods, and
Mm-hmm.
you can eat anything that's an animal product,
Yep.
except maybe dairy, because a lot of dairy does have sugar in it, and a lot of people are sensitive to the casein proteins or the whey proteins,
Right.
and
Yes.
cheese can be, with its casomorphines, can actually be addictive too. And a lot of people who start eating cheese, even high fat cheese, find they keep every day they just want a little more and a little more. And
Mm-hmm.
but if you stay away from that, and and you just know what foods to eat, then I tell people for the first 30 days, do two things.
Mm-hmm.
Do not weigh yourself,
Okay.
because your goal in the first 30 days is not to lose weight. Losing weight, it shouldn't be anybody's goal on a carnivore diet,
Right.
because you can't help but lose weight. You don't have to consciously lose weight. The weight
Right.
will go away. You get on a
Mm-hmm.
carnivore diet, you're going to lose weight. I mean,
Right.
there is no doubt, unless you're really screwing up and doing something wrong,
Or
but it
unless
will.
maybe you need to gain weight, your body will, you'll gain weight if
It
that's what you
will,
need to
but
do.
your
Yeah.
weight will normalize, because once you get your chemistry working, and the most important thing is to get yourself metabolically healthy and fat adapted. And while you're becoming fat adapted from
Mm-hmm.
a sugar burner, which most of us have been all our lives, the physiological changes that are going to happen are dramatic. You're waking up pathways in each cell of your body that haven't really been used much. The fat burning pathways. You're trying to downregulate the sugar burning pathways, and that affects every system in your body. You're going to dump fluids, and then retain fluids, and then dump fluids. Your gut biome is going to form a revolution and have picket
Yes.
marches down there. And all of these sugar eating bacteria are going to all get out their picks and knives and swords and guns and start a war in your gut.
Yep.
You're
That's
going
what
to
happened to me.
you're going to you're going to go through hell. And if you try to weigh yourself while this is happening, you might be up
Mm-hmm.
3 pounds one day, down 3 pounds the next day, up 2 pounds
Right.
the next day. And
Yep.
the psychology of feeling so lousy and working so hard and not seeing the results on the scale, which is the metric that we've become so used to using to judge success or failure, you immediately give up and head for the nearest donut. And that's derailing. Whereas if you get it through your head that it's a 2 week to a month adaptation period, a
Mm-hmm.
transformation period to let you settle into fat burning, let your body settle down. The second thing you need to do, other than don't think about weight, you'll gain weight, you'll lose, won't matter. It won't
Right.
matter. That's not what you're trying to accomplish. The second thing is, do not allow yourself to ever be hungry, period. And that means always eating like there's no tomorrow if you have
Yep.
to. If you feel a
Yep.
craving for something, eat meat. But eat. And don't just eat a snack. Eat until you can't eat. I tell people, eat until the thought of another bite makes you physically feel ill.
Mm-hmm.
And then 20 minutes later, if you're starting to feel like you could use a little more, eat more. Just keep eating. I don't care if you eat 6,000 calories a day. I came up with this, and it worked for me, and it was the only thing that finally got me past that first 30 days, and it took me all my life to come up with the reasons why this works. Other YouTubers, other people like Bart K and some of those have kind of the same idea, and they
Mm-hmm.
call it priming.
Yes.
They call it priming. It's the same
Yep.
thing. Just keep stuffing yourself, and always make sure that you have food ready. Have some hamburger patties cooked. Leave them in the fridge. Have bacon strips cooked. If you
Mm-hmm.
leave the house, throw some hamburger patties and some bacon strips in a Ziploc bag. Take it with you. The instant you get a craving, the first thought that comes into your mind, that first mental image of an ice cream cone or a pizza or a donut, you have to nip it right there. Nip it right there before it takes hold, takes over your mind,
Yes.
and your subconscious says, sorry, Mitch, we're having a donut and we're not letting you do
Exactly.
anything about it. And we'll help you out a little bit too, because while you're having that donut, try these excuses out and see if they don't make sense to you.
They do. They
And
do
here,
make
yeah,
sense.
and here's one. How about this one? Can you live with this? We know we're going to go on a hard diet next week. We're just going to give ourselves one last treat. I
Yep.
promise we'll never do it again. Is that okay for you?
Oh my
Okay, we'll
God.
use that as today's excuse. On Monday, we'll think up a different excuse. That's how our brains work.
Yes, it
That there is
is.
a scientific and physiological explanation for that, and there was an evolutionary survival advantage to the subconscious brain having the ability to get the conscious mind out of the way, and that was during the hunt. Because if the conscious mind could think its own things, the fear and the thoughts of getting themselves run over by these big animals, they would have run the other way. But they couldn't.
Hmm.
Their survival depending on them, throwing all caution to the wind,
Right.
consequences be damned, and turn it over to their muscle memory, turn it over to their subconscious that knew what it had to do. And athletes today they still use that same tactic
Yep.
when they're shooting basketballs. Turn off there. They consciously try to just not think about the shot. Just get up and just do it. Because the more you
Hmm.
think about it, the more you're going to miss. And that's why when our subconscious is addicted to something and it wants it, it will. And then when it's all done having its treat, this is the funniest part. When it's all done having its big treat, okay? Here, you've made promises to yourself for the past 2 months trying to lose weight. You've said, "I'm never going to eat this stuff again. I'm never going to eat that." Then you find yourself, at 3 o'clock in the morning at the Walgreens drugstore buying a gallon of ice cream because it's on sale. You went in to buy a pint of ice cream, but the gallon ice cream was on sale, and you said, "I got to buy the gallon." And you take the whole, and I'm telling you my story. You take the
Hmm.
whole gallon home with you. You eat as much as you can eat until you can't look at it anymore. At that point, I would get through half of it, half a gallon, and I would know that if I put it in the freezer, half an hour later, I'd be back. So when I had the half, I would turn on the hot water in my sink because I got my conscious thinking and rationality back. Once my subconscious had its fill of sugar, it turned my frontal lobe back over to me, and it said, "Okay, Mitch, you're in charge." Maybe for a half an hour until we're in charge again, and during that half an hour, you have feelings of guilt, shame. You say, "What was I thinking?" You say, "You can't. I can't believe I did that. Why the hell would I do that? I didn't want to do that. What was I thinking?" And that's because during the period of the dastardly act of buying and eating the ice cream, you had no control. And in our arrogance as a species of humans, we think we're so in control. We have so much will, and we have nothing. All we do in reality is have the ability to make suggestions to our subconscious, and if it thinks it's reasonable, it'll follow through with it. We are not in charge. The animal in us is in charge because the animal in us, the ones we descended from, instinctively knew exactly the right thing to do. And we still do too, and it's still in there. But
Hmm.
addiction has been, I hate to use the word prostituted, but it has been taken advantage of because it was there for a reason. It was there, and the reason we became sugar addicts in prehistoric time was because the sugar was the survival food.
Hmm.
And it behooved us, when we found this sweet tasting survival food, whether fruit was in season, the hunt failed, and we had to go out and grub this stuff up.
Yep.
We had to be encouraged by mechanisms that we weren't thinking about to eat as much of this as we could because we have the pathways to turn that sugar into fat, which we then store on our body, which is what we run on most of the time. Just like a bear hibernating for the winter. You don't see a bear eating broccoli. A bear eats honey.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
it's the sugar. So
Hmm.
sugar was elevated to a special place of importance to our species survival in a time before 7-Elevens were on every corner. We still have that programming in us today. We still, to this day, are driven by our subconscious doesn't realize that there is a 7-Eleven on the corner. Our conscious minds know that, but our subconscious just knows. And if there's sugar, we better get it into us, and we better do whatever we can. We better encourage this person. And they encourage, the brain's way of encouraging anything it wants you to do is an endorphin release. Dopamine, serotonin, that's the sex drive, that's the pleasure centers. Well,
Mm-hmm.
sugar got tied into those things. So the same things that give us our sexual drive and our urges to chase the opposite sex also urges us to eat sugar. And the only way that you can overcome this is with a carb-free diet, because you can't give an addict even a little taste. But
That's the thing.
it has to be a carb-free diet. And here's the key. Here's the secret. It has to be a carb-free diet that after a certain period of time, the body knows it's not short on any nutrients that it needs, because the minute it gets short of something, it triggers a famine response, and
Right.
part of that famine response is gorge on carbs. When it's short of amino acids, when it's short of the vitamins and minerals, of all the things that are in meat, when you haven't eaten meat for a while, you will get carb cravings because your body thinks the hunt failed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the why. And it's obvious and it's simple, and yet I've never heard another soul put it in that, explain it in that way. And I'm killing myself trying to tell people
Yeah,
you
I
got to eat
mean,
the nutritious food and eat no carbs, and you'll get better and it'll go away.
all right, you're right. That is the thing that you just said about carb addiction and carb addicts needing to eat a carb-free diet. Man, that's so real. Like, and the problem is people are afraid that they're afraid to not eat to eat just meat. You know what I mean? They're like
For two
that.
reasons.
And somebody said it up here about Ansel Keys. I think I popped that up.
That's a dirty
So,
word.
yes, right.
I'm
So,
not. I apologize, like I always do, to everybody in the chat. I am trying to look at the chat, but when I'm following a train of thought in my mind,
yeah,
I don't dare, because none of this stuff is scripted that I say. I've never scripted anything I ever said. It just comes from somewhere, and if I interrupt it,
comes
I
from the
go,
heart.
where was I? What was I saying? I lose my train of thought.
That's all right.
But yeah, it's
Um,
true. If you treat carb addiction the same way you treat alcohol addiction or a drug addiction or heroin addiction,
mhm.
then saying to somebody it's okay to eat 10 grams of carbs a day is as telling a cocaine addict that he can just have one snort a day, or a heroin addict that they can just have half of a milliliter injection, or an alcoholic that you can only have half an ounce of alcohol a day. You cannot have any. And that's why keto, even though it worked, it never cured the addiction. And the addiction will always win in the end, because none of us are that strong, because it's
Right.
torture. It's torture.
Yeah,
And these
it
people that
is.
are on these low calorie, high exercise diets, they're killing themselves and they think they're doing the right thing. It's sad because they're miserable. The happiest people on the planet that I've ever seen are carnivores.
That's so true.
The most
That is so
chill, the
true.
most chill,
Mhm.
relaxed, smiling, happy people
That's
are
absolutely
carnivores,
true.
because our brains are working. Our inflammation is down. Our stress is down. And we're not killing ourselves in the gym. We're
Right.
doing, we're moving. That's about it. Yeah.
That's about it. We have a bunch of questions. I'm going to go back.
Okay.
I started a bunch of things, so I wanted to go back and make sure that we answer
Oh,
the
Rosie,
questions.
I saw Rosie had a question here. Let me look at,
Yeah.
can I
Okay.
address that one first, if you
Let
don't
me see
mind?
if I can find it.
It's at the bottom of my chat. It just came up. Rosy Red. It's up there on the StreamYard chat.
Is it this one?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mitch, when I get up in the morning, the
Thank you,
first thing I
Rosie.
want Rosie's a new member of our private community, and she was on.
Yay.
I have a live stream on Thursday night for just the private community, and she was
Mm-hmm.
on with us, and she is such a sweetheart. Thank you, Rosie.
Oh,
She lives right up the road from me. She lives about 70 miles just north of Daytona Beach. No, south of
nice.
Daytona Beach in New Smyrna.
Oh,
She's not
okay.
even that far from me. She's only about 50 miles. And very sweet woman. And I was so happy to see her actually come in when was that? 2 nights ago. Mitch, when I get up in the morning, the first thing I want is coffee with butter. Is that okay for me being
Too mad.
too mad? Oh, well, too mad. Okay. Yeah. As long as you don't overdo the butter. I mean, I never could quite get on board with the eating a whole stick of butter at one time. But putting a couple of pats of butter in your coffee, I've never tried it. I have no desire to do it. If
Mm-hmm.
I thought I hadn't eaten enough fat in a given day, I might be tempted to make a cup of coffee and throw some butter in it.
Yeah.
But I eat
If you
bacon and
find that
eggs.
it makes you hungry, and you don't want to eat that early, then you could cut the butter out. But I agree with Mitch. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's not enough. There should be no carbs in it, and it's not
Right.
going to be enough to consider a meal as long as you don't overdo it. And every one of my people that watch me know exactly how I feel about coffee. I'm trying to make them all into cigar smokers, but most of them don't want it.
We were just talking about coffee and how I recently incorporated back some decaf coffee into my regimen, which I had taken out in October to try to deal with some anxiety issues, but it didn't really help having it out. So I added decaf back. So yeah.
Well, you keep doing that carnivore stuff, and
Hmm.
your anxiety well, it's an election year, so it's going to be hard to
Oh my
not be
God.
anxious about something this
Right,
year,
right.
unless you hide under your bed for the entire year. What's the deal with antioxidants? The only reason I ate vegetables. Well, that's a great question, and you have to think about it this way. You have to say to yourself, if there were no oxidants, would there be a need for antioxidants? And the answer to that is no, obviously. And that's when you're talking about an oxidant, you're talking about a molecule or a chemical that binds with something that it shouldn't. We call these things free radicals. They
Hmm.
call they call it oxidative stress. It's damaging, it causes inflammation, and it's similar to what sugar does. Sugar is glycative, not oxidative. So sugar just gloms onto other things and gets in the way and hooks up onto a molecule where something else is supposed to hook up but can't now because the sugar's grabbed its parking place. And oxidative stuff is like that too. And one of the single most oxidative foods that they've got us eating today are seed oils.
Oh my
Seed
God.
oils, because when a food oxidates, we call that rancid. It goes rancid. It's an organic rust is what it is. You could call rust on metal outdoors on a metal lawn chair, you could call that oxidative stress too, because that's what rust is. It's iron oxide. It's when the oxygen hooks up with the iron, and you don't want that happening inside of your body. But because we created this enormous problem with oxidative stress in our bodies, a whole new industry of antioxidants and all these different antioxidant pills and vitamins, and it became a big thing that we must eat these. We must eat these. Well, if you're not poisoning yourself, you don't need the antidote. And that's how I feel about antioxidants. I don't think we need any of them if we're not eating all the poisonous foods. How's that?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We have here somebody taken no nuts. Needs some inspiration.
Inspiration. So much pressure to go the other way. Well, That's where techno nuts. I like that name.
Te- Techno nuts.
Yeah,
What does that say? Okay,
yeah.
techno nuts. Thank you.
Grow a pair.
Oh,
I mean, basically,
so yeah,
you have to gain conviction. You have to do enough research and
yeah,
study enough on your own to be unshakable in your conviction so that you recognize the error when you hear anything. And this is a hard thing to do.
it is.
Everybody is shaken, especially when it comes from their doctor or some of these other so-called experts that are telling you what you're doing is going to kill you. It's going to give you colon cancer. You got to have your healthy fruits and vegetables. And you notice how the word healthy is always appended to the front of the phrase fruits and vegetables and whole grains. You never hear those terms without somebody saying healthy whole grains and healthy fruit. And it's on the front of every cereal box. It's nonsense. And we've shown it's nonsense. So what I would do is I would start educating yourself and looking at the videos that show the origins, that show the religious, the Seventh day Adventist origins with Ellen G. White and John Harvey Kellogg, and then study Ansel Keys and how he his fraud studies, 7 country studies. He, just conveniently left out all the countries that didn't happen to fit on his line.
Right.
And one of the greatest things about Ansel Keys 7, and they still think he's a hero today. They still think because people are easy. And once a lie is told for 30, 40, 50 years, it becomes truth. Perception is reality. And to turn that around afterwards, you have to go through the phase of being labeled a denier, an extremist, a radical, And that's what they label us. And yet, look at us. Look at me. Look at me. Look at my age. Look at my health. Look at my
Hmm.
brain. 77 years old. Look how my brain is working. I'm sharper now than I've ever been in my life. How's that possible?
No signs of dementia?
I'm supposed to be drooling in some nursing home, drinking Ensure because
Yep.
it's so healthy.
Hmm.
It's nuts. So they can tell us everything they want. But one thing you don't see is you don't see headlines, carnivores dropping dead from heart attacks.
Right.
You just don't see it. You don't see YouTube videos. You might see a troll might come up and say, carnivore gave me a heart attack. And then somebody who knows what they're talking about will go and tear that one apart. This guy was carnivore for 2 weeks, had a heart attack. Well, for, 65 years, he weighed 300 pounds. He was a diabetic and he ate nothing but
Right.
sugar, but he went carnivore and 2 weeks later he had a heart attack. So it must have been the carnivore diet that you have to know this stuff. And you have to know it with such confidence that you're willing to fire your doctor if he looks down his nose at you and tells you you're foolish. If your doctor doesn't respect you enough that you might know what you're talking about, especially if you bring him copies of some studies and ask him to look at them. If you have a doctor that has this gigantic ego, how dare you say that to me? What do you know? You're not a doctor. I'm a doctor. Well, when somebody tells me they're a doctor and they went to medical school, I know immediately that they were taught all the wrong stuff. Because
Right.
the only doctors today that are in the carnivore YouTube space or anywhere that know what they're
Hmm.
talking about it. Those are the things they learned after they escaped conventional medicine and started learning things on their own. I skipped the learning conventional medicine part and went right to learning things on my own. So in a lot of respects, I have a head start on a lot of these doctors today. But that's how you do that. That's
Yeah.
how you do it. My buddy Jody Drone Shots, the best drone builder I know. Thank you, Jody. I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Yeah, do your research. Do your research. I'm watching a lot of my friends and family going toward veganism.
Oh,
And I know that that's the wrong direction to be going in, but it's because I did my own research. I studied for myself. And And then I've watched, and we see all these amazing carnivores and all the amazing health success that they're having. I'm not hearing anybody saying that they're curing all their diseases with veganism.
No, they're
So,
creating them, but you can't. Here's the
right.
problem, Robyn. I I have two children. My daughter is God bless her. She's 50 years old and a sugar addict even more than me, and she's had gastric band. She's had
Mm,
surgery to remove excess weight. She's had all of these different things that she's done, and she cannot ever make it more than a week or two on carnivore. She lives with her husband and son that are inconsiderate and will constantly be eating crap in front of her. She can't empty out her house. She wants to in the worst way, but she
yeah.
she is so addicted, and I watch it, what she's going through, and I watch so many other people, and I hear so many people that write me these comments about how hard it is, and one of the things that I tell most people to do is for the first 30 days you're on carnivore, don't even tell anybody.
Yep.
And that ties in with them trying to talk you out of it. Don't even tell them, and especially your doctor. Don't tell your doctor you're doing this. Yep, yes, doctor, you're right. I will certainly. I'm gonna get right on that. I'll go get that statin filled, and yes, sir, no
Right.
problem. Don't don't try to sell carnivore to any of your friends. Even when you're I tried that. I thought, man, when this thing first started working for me, I was going to go out and save the world. Man, I was going to be carnivore evangelist. I was going to, get a soapbox and put it up in the park and a megaphone and just tell people, save yourselves. Nobody wants to hear it from you, and you'll get so tired of hearing, well, I think as long as you eat everything in moderation and it's a balanced diet, that's the best thing to. I I just couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. And you can't, what are you going to do? Argue with these people? Because then if you had any friends, you won't have any anymore. So the best thing to do is just do your thing, do it for yourself. And that's why after a year of being snubbed with my message, you asked me why I started my YouTube channel. I never finished that
Hmm.
answer. But after a year of running up against brick walls and idiocy, and everything in moderation, everybody knows. When I hear anybody ever say to me, well, everybody knows, I shut off my ears and
Right.
go the other way.
Immediately.
Go the other way.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody knows. Yeah.
Hmm.
Everybody knows. I said, this word needs to get out. This word has to get out. Somebody, because we're not going to get it from ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC. We're never going to get it from media. We are never going to get it from our lovely government who tells us to eat 6 to 11 servings of healthy whole grains every day and 2 ounces
Right.
of lean chicken breast. We're never going to get the message
Right.
from them. We
No.
are never going to get the message at nursing homes, hospitals, schools, or any other place where the government dictates the dietary regulations. We're not going to get it from our doctors, who are on the payroll, most of them, of every drug company.
Mm.
We are certainly not going to get them from Coca-Cola and Nestle. Advice not to eat their stuff. Somebody has got to get this word out, and it is those of us on social media that are putting it out there. And the beautiful thing about this is we're not in anybody's face that isn't looking
That's
for
right.
information on this. So I figured,
Yep.
what a great place this. I had the YouTube channel, I had all of this equipment and studio stuff to record videos and do live streams. I said, I have a hell of a story to tell here, especially at my age, because
Yes.
I figured that there's a lot of people that are in their 60s and 70s that really had nowhere to go. Because
Yeah.
when you get to be my age, what a 22-year-old bodybuilder is telling you, you can't relate. You
Right.
can't relate to what
Exactly.
he's telling you, because you say, well, yeah, you're 22 years old and genetically, all you have to do is blow your nose and you'll put on muscle.
Right.
Where do you get to be 77?
Right.
Tell me what I do now. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, I might be able to actually do a little good here and have a purpose again in life. And I had been, I don't want to say dead, but because of the disasters I've had in my life and business and marriage and all that, I mean, I was ready to check out here 10
Mm.
years before I did this. I had, and
Wow.
this thing took off and I recorded a video and thanked everybody for giving
I
me
saw
purpose in
that.
life
Yeah.
again. Yeah. And I meant it. And I meant it. And I've gotten my whole self has come back to life, if you can't tell. I got my brain back. I got my
Yeah.
mind back. And it's given me doing this a new life. And I'm convinced that I'm living up to the Hippocratic Oath more than any doctor who actually had to take it, and that is do no
Right.
harm.
So
I
tell me,
think we'll
what
help
is your
people.
profession? What was your profession? Did you retire or, yeah, what
Well,
did
I
you
was
retire
forced to
from?
retire. Yeah, I was rich and broke three times in my life. I was always in my own. I never worked for anybody. I was always a maverick, and I was always in some kind of business. I was a in this in the late 70s and 80s. I was in construction. I was a home builder. I was a swimming pool builder, then a home builder, and I was building these big luxury homes in these big new developments back then. And then the crash came in the 80s, and the economy crashed, and the real estate market went to hell, and all the savings and
Hmm.
loans went out of business, and the government stepped in and took everything over, and it was the biggest fraud on planet Earth. And I got caught up in the tsunami of that, so I went broke. Then I've always been
Mm.
interested in technology because that's what I did in the army. So I went back. I went in and started a little computer company and built that up into a very big computer company and ran that for 20 years in Central Florida. We became the largest compact computer dealer to education in the
Mm,
northern
nice.
half of the state. And when the internet and all that stuff was coming in, we were putting all that equipment and infrastructure and wiring up the schools and putting in all that stuff and building the PCs for them. And I had a very large business until Compaq allowed themselves to get bought out by Hewlett Packard. And Hewlett
Hmm.
Packard came along and
Yeah.
said to me, Mitch, we don't do business like Compaq does. We don't have dealers like you. We sell direct to those customers. So thanks. It was nice. Glad you turned all your customers over to Compaq because now they're our customers, and I lost
Wow.
everything overnight. I
That's
lost my entire business.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But I didn't feel bad about it because they told me it wasn't personal. It was just business. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I said, oh, okay, if that's the case, then, let me kiss you because it's okay.
Wow, that's
I
terrible.
have a T-shirt that says National Sarcastic Society on it. I don't know if you ever see that. And
I'm not surprised.
then the tagline says, like we need your support. You know?
Right. Right.
But no, so here I was. I was married. I was living in a fabulous mansion. I had, I mean, I'm making a ton of money. I had Rolls Royce in the garage. I had my own yacht, 53-foot yacht over in Daytona Beach. I had a twin engine Beech Baron airplane. I used to fly to the islands. I was living the life and earning it all honestly. And then the next morning, I didn't.
Mm, 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 mm.
And so then here I found
Mhm.
myself in my early, like late 50s, early 60s with and when your business goes away that quick, you don't just take the money and run because you owe the money. You have payables and all that. And anyway, I went broke. So I
Mm.
decided I was going to go in the restaurant business because that's the natural thing for a general contractor computer company owner to do. I
Right,
mean,
right. Next natural
the
logical
next
step.
logical progression in that was to open a chain of fish and chips restaurants
Ooh,
in
nice.
Orlando. And
Hmm.
because I had a friend that had a couple of these in Naples, and he had a great concept, and I thought it was a concept we could duplicate. The food was, I would drive all the way to Naples, which is 3 4 hour drive, just to eat in his restaurant. He had crab
Wow.
cakes. So it's a good thing I don't have that restaurant today because I would weigh 400 pounds.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here
Yeah.
talking to you. But
Right.
but I did. I went around. I negotiated leases in these big brand new shopping centers over a period, it's going to be 10 restaurants in 5 years, sell the whole mess for a big bunch of money, and then hit the road. That was the plan. Unfortunately, that plan was hatched in like 2005 and 2006, and we all know what happened in 2008. Remember?
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The economy crashed.
It
The
did.
real estate market crashed. The developments where my new restaurants, the one that I did build and get open, was in a brand new development that was full of new houses and condos and all kinds of fabulously beautiful upscale lakefront walkways and piers. And well, that never got half built. They never even built the parking lots for us because the whole real estate market crashed. They couldn't sell
Crash.
anything.
Yeah.
Everybody went broke, and Mitch got caught up in that tsunami.
Oh my
And that
gosh.
was and after that, I basically, I said, I'm done. I said, I can't take any more of this. I have killed myself to build a life for myself without taking the traditional route of working for the government or some big company and putting up with crap for 30 years and,
Right.
getting a gold watch. I always been more ambitious. I wouldn't do it any other way. But it put me in a 10-year, in basically a 10-year funk. I mean, and this has pulled me out. I tried the drone things to pull me out of it, and then sure enough, the government comes after all of us drone pilots with stupid regulations, and they made that into a living hell and impossible to do without worrying all the time that there's going to be a knock on your door and somebody from the federal government was going to be putting you under arrest because you flew your little 3-ounce drone in the park. Because that's how absurd it is. It's how crazy it is what they do. So, all this
Yeah.
time I've been trying to stay in shape physically. I've
Yeah.
been trying to work out. That's why I hurt my head. I overdid it in the gym and passed out in the locker room
Oh my gosh.
and hit my head on
Wow.
the way down and ended up with a subdural hematoma. I had to have my skull cut open and had that big
Oh my
hematoma removed
gosh.
from my head. And
Wow.
so after I finished recovering from that, which was about about the time I had put on weight during the recovery from that, and the recovery was more regaining my balance and things like that again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I fully recovered from that, but I did with 30 extra pounds, and that's when, while I was off for a year, just doing nothing, I was learning and studying everything I could get my hands on about carnivore, and said, that's
Yeah.
it, it's time to do that. And I started it. And at the time that I started the YouTube carnivore little journey, which about 7 months ago, I had been on carnivore for a year. I got my weight was 140 pounds. I'm 5'10", 140 pounds.
Wow. You're skinny.
I have become skinny. Uh, I can do 4 sets of 20 push-ups. I
Wow.
can walk for miles. I used to be in so much pain that sometimes I couldn't tie my shoes. All of that stuff has gone away. My kidney stones are resolving and getting smaller. I've passed a few of them already
Mm.
without a problem.
Wow.
My eczema that I used to have on my elbows is completely cleared up. I know
That's
my skin,
amazing.
for somebody my age, my skin is really improved. It's really, really,
Mm-hmm.
my hair's gotten darker.
That is crazy.
Yeah, here, let me show you the back. I'll show you the back shot
Yeah.
here. Yeah. See that?
Yeah.
That's my color. 77 years old. And that's my hair.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, seriously. It's
That's
it's
amazing.
crazy and I'm never hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I eat 2 meals a day. Today about 10 o'clock I had 5 quarter-inch thick strips of Wright's bacon, which is over a half a pound, and
Mm-hmm.
5 eggs. And then about 3 o'clock.
I love your cooking show in the morning.
Oh,
Watch
cool.
watch me beat my eggs.
Yeah. It's crazy how that stuff catches on, isn't it? Excuse me. Excuse
While I
me
beat
while
my
I
eggs.
beat my eggs. Yeah.
Yes.
And everybody loves it. But
Yes.
I feel I love I like to make people happy. I like to make people laugh. I always have, and I like
Mm-hmm.
the entertainment. And I figure, this is serious stuff I'm talking about here. We're talking about health and life
Yes.
and corruption and
Absolutely.
what's wrong with the world. And I said, if I can, if at least if I can inject a little humanity and humor into it, then anybody who watches me might think, look, this sounds like a real person, not just some performer reading
Right.
a script that maybe somebody else wrote or artificial
Yes.
intelligence.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I try to
It's
mix
been
that up
an
a little bit.
hour, Mitch. We're at an
Yeah.
hour and
Wow.
5 minutes. I want to
I
make sure that you're okay to continue or how much time you've got because I don't
well, let
want
me
to
tell you what. I
take
show 135 people on
amazing.
watching it on my channel. I don't know how many
Okay.
people are. I don't know if that number is a combination of both our channels or if
I
you
see a
have.
total of 149. So there's a
Okay,
few people
so
on my channel too.
so you got a few of your.
Yes.
Well, listen, Robyn. We all know who they're really here to see.
They're here to see you for 100%. Yes,
Oh no,
absolutely.
no, they're here to see the prettier of the two of us, and that sure so ain't me.
Oh, yeah. So,
If I had to go to have some success on YouTube based on my looks, I'd really be in trouble.
oh my gosh. No. I tell you, I love what you're doing. My mom is 75. My dad is 77.
Oh, your dad's my age. Cool.
And I would love to see them both on a carnivore diet. Neither one of them is currently on one. My mom tried carnivore for a couple of weeks, but what happened, I really think what happened to her is she went to her doctor and her doctor told her, no, you can't do that. You need to have this fiber. You need to eat fruits and vegetables. And I really think that that kind of derailed her, just like you were just talking about. You have to have your own gumption about it. You have to have your own mind about it, like, and not regard what everybody else has to say about it because it really does go against everything that we're being taught. It goes against the food pyramid. It goes you go to your doctor. Most of the doctors are going to tell you that you need to have this fiber and you need to eat so many servings of fruits and vegetables because that is our current state, right?
And they believe
So
it. That's
they
the
believe it.
problem. They actually believe
They
it.
believe it.
And the way that I
Mhm.
handle, I have a great relationship with my doctor. I go to the VA for my health, and I go once a year, not to
Thank you
have
for
my
your
doctor.
service, by the
Thank
way.
you, thank you. It was 4 years and it was a long time ago, but thank you anyway. I go there to get my blood work done, basically. And because I'm in the VA healthcare system, if I have a problem, like when I had that accident and I had that surgery, they paid the bills. The VA did. That was incredible. I mean, not no deductibles, no copays, no nothing. They just paid for it all. So that was in Trump got the VA to institute that policy. They didn't used to do that. But the
Mm,
problem was the veterans used to have emergencies, get taken to the emergency room, and the VA wouldn't cover them there. So in the Trump administration, they actually got that whole new veterans thing passed, where if the VA can't do it, they got to pay for it on the outside, and it's
mm,
changed, completely
okay.
transformed VA care, and they took care of all of that. But I go for the blood tests, and anything else I might need, I ask her, and I have a great VA clinic near here. They have MRIs, CAT scan, they have everything in there. It's a huge clinic. They have ear, nose, and throat. They have ophthalmology, dental. They have every department. And if I want to get something, I just text my doctor, say I'd like to see uh, the dermatologist,
Mhm.
and they'll set it up, and I'll get a call to set the appointment. But I don't go there for medical advice. I don't go get
Right.
my annual physical for her to tell me what I should be eating and she always tells me, and we sit and talk sometimes for an hour. Well, I talk for an hour and she listens. And I think she's interested, and I think she
Mhm.
believes just about everything I say, and I've taken her studies. But like any other healthcare professional, the good news is she's a nurse practitioner. And nurse
Mhm.
practitioners don't have the egos that doctors that doctors have.
Mhm.
But she's still very knowledgeable. She can write prescriptions. I mean, she's got that much autonomy.
Right.
But she listens to me and she reads the studies. But she always, when my cholesterol, like most of the thinner, pure carnivores like me, have LDLs in the 300 and something, that everybody thinks we're going to keel over dead from a heart attack.
Right.
She says, well, the way she puts it to me is not insulting to my intelligence. She says, you know that the VA mandates that I recommend that you take a statin. So I'm going to
Mhm.
put it in my notes here that I recommended it and you refused it. I said, fine.
Yes. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because I did see a bunch of chatter in the comments about cholesterol and taking a statin. And Peter said that his cholesterol went sky high on carnivore, and he did start taking statins, but feels terrible.
Well, they've been 30 years ago, I think was it Crestor?
Hmm.
I had a doctor, my cholesterol was not even that high, but high. And this guy told me to take this statin, and I got terrible muscle pains. And I stopped taking it, and I never took them again
Right.
because I had one of the side effects. And about 20 something percent of people have that muscular damage side effect. And some people are having heart damage from it.
Wow.
And based on the real results from the studies, not the phony results, but the real results, the actual statistics, not the relative statistics. Even if it had an upside, it's so small as to be insignificant, statistically insignificant. I can't, and we have to be very careful about telling people not to take a drug that their doctor prescribed, and I won't do that.
No,
I'm not
no.
going to come out and say to anybody, I can tell you, take a look at this and that, and then make up your mind. But
Hmm.
I certainly, legally, morally, or anything else, because I always have in my mind that I could be wrong about some of this stuff. I'm not that cocky. I'm not that arrogant that I say that there's not a chance that I may find out something that I haven't learned yet. And I'm not married to anything I've ever believed. I'm always open. And that's the way,
Hmm.
that's a science, a definition of a scientist. The person who's a scientist is always looking to disprove himself. They don't go into lab work bound to prove that they're right. They want to prove that their theory or their hypothesis is right. But it's not a personal thing. It's not an ego thing.
Right.
Hey, I think the sky's purple. Let's see if we can prove it. But
Hmm.
my motive here is not to make everybody in the world believe the sky is purple when it really isn't.
Right.
So as far as the statins go, I've convinced myself that the whole thing is a fraud and a hoax and has been from the very beginning. I've convinced myself that a simple baby aspirin will duplicate all of whatever beneficial effects from a statin that they've seen on any statin study, because it is known that a statin is also a mild anti-inflammatory like a baby aspirin
Mm.
without the side effects. The baby aspirin does not have the side effects that the statin could have. It's not fooling
Right.
with that kind of chemistry.
Hmm.
I have watched with great interest, and I talked to Dave Feldman last August in Orlando for a couple hours about his lean mass hyperresponder studies. And ever since then, the stuff that they've been coming out with, and Nick Norwitz, especially the Oreo cookie versus statin study,
Yes.
which to me was an in your face, double barreled middle finger to the entire medical establishment,
Yeah.
in that
That
he
was.
lowered his LDL cholesterol by 275 points by eating a sleeve of Oreo cookies for 16 days in a row, and doubled what the statin did afterwards
Hmm.
on the second part of the test. That the Oreo cookies proved to be a more effective agent to, and the reason that all that is true is that the level of our LDL is a function of fat trafficking
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
nothing else. And nothing else.
Yeah.
Because if you know what LDL is, it's not cholesterol. It carries cholesterol, along with triglycerides and all the fat-soluble vitamins and everything else that can't dissolve in blood, yet has to get transported to every cell in our body. So when you become a fat burner and not a sugar burner, the fat can't dissolve in your blood like glucose can. Whereas our cells can get the glucose for energy right from the bloodstream, they can't get the fat from the bloodstream. The fat has to be transported by little, I call them FedEx trucks, which are called lipoproteins, and they deliver the fat. So if you're burning fat and not sugar, obviously you're going to have a ton more fat that has to be transported through your bloodstream in any given minute than if you were burning sugar. And in order to transport all that fat, FedEx had to put on a whole bunch of new trucks, and those are the lipoprotein molecules. And a lipoprotein an LDL starts out as a VLDL, which is designed to transport triglycerides. And then when it offloads the triglycerides, it shrinks down and becomes an LDL. So of course, if there was that many VLDLs necessary to take the fat to your cells for energy, they're going to be left over. And then the job of the HDL is to scavenge them up and get them all back to the liver so they can be repurposed, which is why you traditionally see somebody who is a fat burner on a meat-heavy diet have their HDL go up as well as their LDL, and all of it is explained elegantly by what Dave Feldman and Nick Norwitz call the lipid energy model. And I have a test for everything in my desire to learn things. Do I believe this or do I not believe it?
Mm-hmm.
And that test, does it make sense? Does this make sense? Or is there any part of this explanation which is black magic or fairy tales?
Right.
And the lipid heart hypothesis didn't make any sense for a myriad of reasons. Ansel Keys' explanation of saturated fat. The first thing is, we evolved eating that stuff. If it was bad for us, it would have been downregulated by natural. We would be extinct.
Yes.
It is the fact that our chemistry works the way it is and has survived through millions of generations of different species that came before us means that Darwin was right. Natural selection, survival of the fittest. That's a very misunderstood term as well. Because people, when they hear the word fittest, they immediately think, muscular, thin, pretty handsome, healthy guy. Well, that's not what fittest means. Because if you were stranded in the Arctic with a bunch of people, okay, at that point, the fittest among you would be the fattest. The one that had the most energy are the ones with the best chance of surviving. So it has nothing to do with being fit. It means that the most fit to survive in whatever environment you happen to find yourself. And environments change constantly throughout our history. And evolution has been short-stopped by so many of those things. We've had extinctions and mass extinctions and all kinds of things. But what has survived today so that we're alive, and we're alive because our parents met each other, and each of our parents was alive because all of their parents met each other, and all of their parents were alive because even double that number of people met each other. And when you track that back 20,000 generations, think about this. When you track that chain of events of two people meeting and having an offspring, who then meets somebody else and have an offspring, and you track that back over 20,000 generations, and you multiply that and figure out how many people had to meet and have an offspring in order for it to have happened exactly like it happened, resulting in you, you'll begin to realize that the odds of you even being here are a gazillion to one.
Right. Yeah.
And if something worked in all of those people for all of those years, how can it start killing us in the last 100 years?
Right.
It
Yep.
can't. It can't. It's something in the environment that has changed. And that thing that has changed
Yes.
in the environment is that we got smart enough to think we could manufacture food.
Yep. We're
And
too smart for our own good.
we are. I joke about that all the time. People say, Mitch, you're a smart guy. I say, yeah, I'm so smart. I keep outsmarting myself. You know? Oh, yeah. Well, listen, Robyn, it's been a lot of fun.
Yes, this has
It's
been
been
fun. I
great.
am going to just pop up your channel for just a second.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I
Just
see
want
that.
to
Wow, look at me
share,
streaming by there.
share that
Thank you. Yeah, we
screen.
still have 120s. I
Yeah.
hate to shut live streams
Oh
down
my
with a lot
gosh.
of people watching,
I
but
know it.
I
Everybody's
know.
here so supportive. Yay. So thank you guys so much for being here. Okay, Mitch, tell us about your channel.
Oh, well, old guy carnivore. Most people know about my channel. I've been putting out a video a day, even though it's a, you know what that's like, Robyn. Putting out one
Yes, I
video every
do.
day is a lot of work. I've been
It's a
doing it. I do
job.
2 live streams a week. I do a Tuesday night live stream for everybody, and then on Thursday night a private group live stream where I actually send people the link and they come in to a window like the window that I'm in with you,
Hmm.
and we actually, like a Zoom call. I
Nice.
get to meet people and
Look
talk
at this
personally to
dude.
them. What's that?
Got shirt off.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, if you got it, flaunt it.
There you go.
I don't do that much anymore, but occasionally I'll put that up. I'm so proud. You would have. You're talking to a guy that was ashamed to take a shirt off in public my whole life.
Yes, I heard that
Always ashamed. Never went
story.
to the beach. Never. I was always ashamed of how I looked in a bathing suit, and I don't know why I even cared. When I look at some of these people today that run around in bathing suits,
Hmm.
but yet I still have enough pride to want to. But yeah, look at there.
Yeah.
I have 205 videos now
Yeah.
that are on carnivore
Awesome.
since my drone
In 7 months. That's
in seven
amazing.
months. Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of live streams too.
Hmm. I love it so
But I'm
much.
having I'm having a good time, and I just keep putting them out there, trying to find out
Yes.
what people like. Some of them do well. My biggest video has 187,000 views.
Oh my word. That's amazing.
And it's,
That's
yeah, there's some
amazing.
guys with channels, every video they put out gets 5 million
Yeah.
views, but not me.
Right.
And that was a video of how to throw a chuck roast in a slow cooker.
That's amazing.
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
so interesting.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then I'll make a video where I say, God, Mitch, I'll watch it a couple times. Like, damn, that was great. God, people will understand this. You've put out a concept that nobody else is putting out. This is groundbreaking, revolutionary stuff that's going to help so many people, and nobody watches it. I
Right.
get
I
a
know.
couple hundred views. So what are you
Yeah.
going to do? What are you going to do?
Yeah. I'm so excited for your channel. I saw
Thank you.
that, you're having some really exponential growth. That's really awesome. And I love to see it. I love to see it. And especially, you've been a YouTuber for quite some time. And then just changing your channel over to carnivore in the last 7 months. The growth has just been
Thank you.
phenomenal.
That's
So
very, very nice of you to
congratulations.
say. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
So
that.
I just want to say thank you so much, Mitch, for coming and talking with me on my channel this evening. It's been awesome. I'm gonna have to go back and listen because sometimes when you're clicking trying to click the comments and look at what everybody's saying, and I'm so sorry we didn't get to answer everybody's questions tonight. But I appreciate you very much for taking the opportunity to come and be on my channel tonight.
My pleasure. I had a great time, and I feel like I've known you for a long time already.
I
So
know, I
so
know. Same.
thank you. So
So
thank you
Mitch,
so much, and we'll do this. We'll do this again, and maybe one night you'll even come on my live stream and we can talk.
I would love to. I would love to. So Mitch,
Okay.
I want you to do the exiting comment because I want you to just exit the way you always
You
do.
got it. You got it. I know
All right.
exactly what you mean. Okay, guys, thanks for coming. I appreciate it here. I know I'm speaking for both Robyn and myself when I tell you, take the rest of the day off and eat meat.